So this podcast is really about implementation. The part I missed out in the systems lifecycle, I didn't miss it out purposely because of the way the flow of the vodcast has gone together, but it's really important to understand certain aspects about implementation. As I've mentioned before, there's many different ways of looking at the systems lifecycle, and in fact depending on what you study, what level you study at, and who's teaching you, there'll be different ways of interpreting the system life cycle, and this really does highlight this. When you look at implementation, there's a generic way of looking at implementation. Some people would say that implementation is really the execution of the thing, the actual doing of everything that you've designed, everything that came from analysis then designed, so that it's the actual putting in place of the thing. So that's a generic way of looking at it. In terms of a system, this is where the real disparity comes. There is an argument to say that it's the coding that's really the implementation. It's when you get a team of people actually putting the thing together. That's the implementation of the actual work that goes on. But I really want you to focus in terms of the way we're looking at it in system lifecycle as the installation. It's the handover bit. That's the important way of looking at it, and when it comes to answering questions in exams, that's really the bit you're going to focus on. So it's installation, or what's known as handover. So you might be sat there thinking to yourself, well, how can something that's generically known as execution, the actual doing of the thing you've designed, or even arguably coding in terms of computer systems, how can that suddenly be about installation? In other words, installing it, putting it in place. Well, this really gives you a basic outline of what happens, and these steps are purposely in order, but they've all got to be there in order for a system to be installed, to be handed over, to be given to the client. That's really what it's about. Handing over is giving to the client. You've got to have delivery, you've got to have all the parts in place, whether they've come from the outside or whether your team have built it, whatever they are, hardware and software. They've got to be installed, they've got to be, really the hardware's got to be put in place, it's got to be put together, it's got to be made to work. Then you've got to train the people who are going to use the system, usually the employees in the actual organisation. You've got to put all the data there. So if you imagine this in the school environment, you'd have to have all the pupils' data on the system, and then you're going to hand it over to them. There'll be an actual point where you go, right, this is when the system's usable by you, here we go. The trouble is with the way I described it in the last slide, it makes it sound like it's one act, in that here it is, you take it from me. But that's not strictly true. There's a variety of ways you can do handover, and very few of them are actually like that. Here's the four I want you to focus on, and these are sometimes described in another way. I've used symbology to help you remember these things, but parallel, pilot, direct and phasing are really the four ways that I want you to consider. So with parallel, you're running one system, the old system and the new system together, and this could be, so you're looking at how one system does it and how another system does it, and then correcting the new one, and then eventually you'll stop the old one and make the new one the system that's going to be used. You can also do it by piloting the new system. In other words, you might give it a certain amount of time on the new system out there and see what, and then take it offline, fix the errors, and then go, right, we're ready now. Or it can be direct, which is more like what I really hinted at in terms of, here it is, we're ready to go now, the old one shuts off, the new one starts. Or there's sort of a phased introduction where you might have one department, then another department, then another department, then another department, or one element of the system working, then another element, then another element. So if you're looking in an organisation, it could be that the sales department are using the new angle of the system, and then the manufacturing department will start using a certain bit, and then the accounts department, that's one way of doing it. So phased, gradually one bit, then another bit, then another bit. One bit that's worth mentioning, which really doesn't flow from system handover, but it does come in terms of implementation, is the idea of prototyping. So it could be that a systems analyst or the company that's in charge of this whole operation decide that they want to put together a sample of how the overall thing's going to work, and this allows them to get some sort of feedback or to even test the system. So it's a bit like a pilot, but it's prototyping just a certain amount of it, or a smaller version of something, and it allows them to get an insight, and the organisation that they're working for to get an insight into how the final system could work. So prototyping, I mean, prototyping you really see in like the idea of a physical object, but prototyping could be a whole system.